Hi everyone! Today I'm going to talk to you about my predictions using astrology for the week of March 11th, 2019. First, quickly, let's do a recap of the news from the prior week against my predictions. The global predictions for the entire week last week were that there will be increased focus on all things related to Neptune, such as, say, water, obviously, navy, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, oil, poisons, movies, illnesses, and basically things related to Neptune and or Pisces. The reason I made that prediction is that we had actually a new moon last week that, which means a conjunction of moon and sun that occurred with conjunction with Neptune in Pisces at the same time, which is, double Piscean influence. Because it's actually a new moon, the effect will be felt throughout the following month. But then particularly, I was expecting a really large, strong effect last Tuesday and Wednesday. I was also expecting that there would be a big drop in the market again, especially Tuesday and Wednesday, possibly Monday. But I was also expecting that it would recover by Thursday. And what happened last week is that actually the entire week had a fairly major drop, and I'm recording it's a day late on the 11th of March. On the 11th of March, the market actually went up. So there was a kind of a drop followed by a move to up. But again, the move to up did not occur until the following Monday, and the entire week was down, whereas I was expecting the down days to be primarily Tuesday and Wednesday, possibly Friday, but I was expecting a recovery to come a little bit sooner. As far as the news related to Neptunian topics, indeed there was an abundance of those. Just to cover a few, there was unexpected news last Tuesday about the FDA Commissioner Scott Gottlieb resigning, and associated with that there were some concerns about the cannabis stocks due to the kind of concerns about legal status of the CBD, and a lot of cannabis stocks had suffered fairly significant drop on Wednesday following that. There was also news, quite a lot of news actually, related to oil and or Navy, Sea, just for example, to name a few. China, there was news about China looking to invest $17 billion in the undersea railway tunnel. Saudi Arabia had announced the discovery of massive gas deposit in the Red Sea. The world's largest sovereign wealth fund in Norway is looking to sell off some of its oil stocks. And there was also news about the French and oil and gas company Total, I guess, would be reached a deal with Russia's biggest independent LNG producer, or maybe gas producer, about buying their 10% stake in their LNG project in Russia's Arctic. There are also news about, again, just the pharmaceuticals in general. For example, there was news about teen testifying to Congress in the United States about, being a son of anti-vax parents, meaning parents who do not want their children to be vaccinated. Then he basically defied his parents and got a vaccination. There was also news about kind of both bad and good about depression study treatments. In one case, it failed, and the Allegrand stock, for which the study had failed, had went down quite significantly, 2% during regular hours and 3.5% during extended session. However, at the same time, there was also news about FDA approving an antidepressant nasal spray that's based on the ketamine party drug, of all things. And something to note, again, this was also predicted in my video blog, as well as on my website, tolsunka.com, and my written blog, that the focus not only would be on the pharmaceuticals in general, but specifically on drugs that have to do with, again, vaccinations, but also are delivered via either liquid or gas of some sort, something that's indeed like a spray drug would fall into this, as well as any sort of drugs that either chemically alter your body or via hormones, or alter your state of mind, be it through, helping you with mental illness, or helping you deal with, depression in this case, or addictions, etc. So indeed we had an abundance of news of that nature. There was also a prediction I made specifically that there would be either an actor, a musician, or some prominent sort of a person, public figure, again, that's on the stage, that they may come up and announce that they have either, again, a mental illness or they're suffering from an addiction. I didn't see or hear about that. However, interestingly, there was an announcement by the, again, in the US, famous show Jeopardy host of Alex Trebek, came up and said that he had the stage 4 pancreatic cancer and he will begin chemotherapy immediately. And again, chemotherapy is something that falls in the domain of Neptune. And again, this was a famous person, although not quite an actor, but basically I guess it would say he's like an actor because it's his acting persona that obviously he's using being on the stage for so many years. There was also news obviously on Sunday about Boeing 737 crashing, killing quite a few people. Unfortunately, very sad news. I did have prediction for Friday of last week that there would be positive news for the US industries related to things related to things among other aerospace. And obviously there was increased news about Boeing, but unfortunately it was far from positive. So the area was correct, but the direction of the news was wrong. So moving on to this week, week of March 11, the global prediction, I predict that there would be very busy news week with a lot of important agreements being discussed, negotiations. Laws may be passed, especially international laws, international agreements, laws regarding immigration, continuing to focus on oil, navy, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, things like that. International expansion, long distance travels and shipments, tariff, sort of legal issues and discussions, whether domestic or international. Again, maybe legalization of things that have to do with, again, pressing over the borders or shipping things across the border, moving of sort of goods and people across the border. And there will also be a theme where there will be increased focus on things that relate to, say, Capricorn and Saturn, meaning steel, metals, rocks, minerals, as well as large and long-term construction projects. Again, things that take a long time, proceed slowly, and involve a lot of planning, a lot of control, because again, the control is needed for the quality projects, to succeed. And I do expect that there will be, again, large market moves this week, particularly March 13th and 14th. Continuing predictions about Ruth Bader Ginsburg. We're now in March. I have not heard of her resigning or leaving her position. However, I also have not heard where she is either. And as I said before, the next times where we may hear about increased, perhaps, difficulties in her life, be it associated with just being overwhelmed at work and busy or potentially experiencing some health problems, would be May and June. Continuing prediction, kind of remaining for this week, last week, is again globally, for the US, is focused on oil, gas, chemicals, navy, video industry, music industry, either lying or some expansion problems where expansion happened too quickly, or the expansion that's happening quickly during this week, it may actually be reversed in the future. And the new prediction for the US is something that is in progress right now, and it will continue through about April 17th, is there's an increased probability of an important public announcement related to either communication or transportation industries in general. So it could be something like IT, social media, aerospace, high tech, cars, electric cars, which I have heard since I've written this. Apparently there will be an announcement about Y model by Tesla, but also about credit, debt, taxes, insurance, loans, rates, and anything that has to do with communicating and discussing contracts, as well as there actually is a possibility of some contracts being signed, and like I said, laws passed along those lines, meaning that either laws are passed first and therefore allow certain things to be signed into contract, or the contract itself is a law if it's, for example, involves international parties. And for the US, the particular dates where such an announcement, again, communication and or transportation industries and or involving young people for some reason. Maybe it's a celebrity that's a social media celebrity, and or a woman, and maybe it's somebody who is known for, again, either working with children or is a child, say child star of some sort, and or they have, they're famous through like about cooking, related to food or home improvement or real estate somehow, or the announcement is something that, you know, somebody who's a young person would really rejoice, or somebody who's cool and hip and mobile would be really happy about. So the announcement, likely dates are, again, March 11th through the April 7th, but particularly March 13th through 15th, 21st through 23rd, and then April 2nd through 4th. Now, the nature of the announcement and the reception among the public may vary depending on when the announcement is made, or maybe there will be multiple announcements. So the announcements that are made in March may be popular, such that, for example, you know, the new car, or the celebrities announce a new deal, or somebody becomes a celebrity, like a, you know, some child star or something, or there's a new contract that is signed. So announcements made in March will likely be perceived positively by the public, and or the product will be popular, or the person, then, you know, whoever, you know, makes the announcement, or a person about whom the announcement is made will likely be somebody who's popular and likable. If the announcement or the announcements made in early April will likely be unpopular because they may be perceived as somebody's being exploited, or the deal is made under some shady circumstances like lying, hacking, manipulation, or there may be news about some trafficking ring is busted, especially if it involves women and or children, or there may be some grocery store, again, related to food, cooking, home improvement, some grocery store, for example, or some chain or bank, again, something to do with safety of assets, that something was jeopardized, maybe through hacking. Maybe, you know, there was break, hack, and maybe it wasn't communicated in time, and so data was compromised. So that would be more likely to be in early April for the US. And as I will mention later, early April also looks like a tense time globally in general. So moving on to specific dates, March 11th. As I said, I'm recording this on March 11th, my original prediction, which I post those already over the weekend on my blog, tastunka.com, so that had already come up in written form. I thought that it would be going down about 60%. We did have Dow Jones going down initially because of news about Boeing, but then all three, major indexes ended up being in the green. However, additional prediction that I made for Monday, the 11th of March, was that there may be increased focus on some risky or sudden activities by the banks and or financial institutions, especially as related to real estate or safety of assets, maybe protecting their assets, you know, assets being real estate in particular, or there may be problems or concerns about, say, either value or quality of, say, construction, value of services and materials, or disappointment over profits. And just briefly looking at it right now, I saw that there was some news about New York Attorney General reportedly had subpoenaed two banks, Deutsche Bank and Investors Bancorp, over Trump Organization financial records. And my guess would be that it would be related to financing of some construction projects. So that could be it. Maybe there are some other news. I will look into this more when I make my blog for next time. So additionally, for March, globally from March 11th through 13th, I expect there will be additional or the increased focus on news about military weapons, guns, and or say bases, and it will have to do with not some rapid activities or attacks, but rather preparations that take a long time. So maybe building of some bases or expanding somewhere that, again, building bases literally takes months or even years, or planning on staying somebody for months or years, or expanding military activities into regions that are somehow, they have a lot of mountains, or it's a really dry kind of a land terrain with a lot of rocks. So some really like slow movement, slow sort of movement of military settling down, kind of hankering down for a long time, especially in either areas that involve mountains or building bases that, again, things that are made out of rocks that are solid, like large bases, and they're being built to last. And these activities will likely proceed smoothly at this time, but it will be something that's a long-term project. Then for the US, for March 11th and 12th, there may be increased news about oil, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, navy beverages, drugs, poisons, as well as real estate, homeland security, banks, assets, and safety of those assets, meaning is there enough cash saved? Is there, are the assets protected adequately? And or protections for domestic businesses in the US. So there may be some confusion or concerns about these issues because perhaps there are some new leaders and the leaders are kind of unlikable, or the leader cannot be found, meaning like there is no leader and it's not clear who will be the leader, or there's some confusion whether this person is good or bad, like not everybody likes them, and basically, so because of that kind of confusion or uncertainty, there may be concerns for the, like I said, the industries above, like oil, chemicals, but as well as banks, as far as like protection of assets or domestic businesses. Additionally, there may also be, specifically for the US, increased news about military activities, leaders that are either from military or IT or aerospace related industries, as well as sort of airplanes, drones, or weapons, and especially such that are delivered via air. So again, airplanes or drones, anything that flies, whatever that may be, or aggressive communication. So again, because again, communication involves air, you kind of breathe air, right? You have to breathe and you talk. So anything is delivered via air, be it kind of a verbal threat or a threat that's delivered via, say, airplanes or drones or things that are flying, may be in jeopardy, where in negotiations for 11th and 12th of March, US may kind of overdo sort of doing some pushing or come across as too aggressive and sort of push partners away, and or there may be some either strikes or preparations for it, or just additional news, perhaps upsetting news over airplanes, either again accidents or things that invoke anger or fires, or some problems where things kind of overheat, be it again verbally or the actual like flying objects overheat. And for China, for the exact same days, 11th of 12th, there's increased focus on partnership negotiations and agreements, and those may involve angry disagreements, manipulations, power plays, military posturing, kind of show of force, and there may be some social media upsets where there's some news in social media. Maybe China sees that it's being, or perceives that it's being attacked on social media, or some social media, maybe there's some sort of statement that angers, and there's some reply from the country saying, no, we're upset about this, don't say that. And the disagreements, like I said, can involve banks, financial institutions, earnings and profits, value of certain products, as well as construction projects and real estate. So because these kind of happen at the same time for US and China, charts of both countries are affected, it is possible that there may be some heated up kind of negotiations involving, again, earnings, profits, value of certain products, construction projects and real estate, and there may be some heated kind of arguments between China and US, and that's especially 11th and 12th of March. Then on Tuesday, March 12th, I believe there may be a really big down move, 60 to 65% probability of that, and globally increased focus on oil, gas, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, navy, and as well as long-distance international shipments, laws and legal issues, immigration, and we may hear about increased conflicts involving those areas, or problems for some drugs. Maybe the drug is not legally approved, or international shipment is delayed, especially if it's over water, or if it's involving gas or oil. There may be some pollution news, or like of the water, some oil spill or something, or confusion about the leader in one of those industries. I'm guessing it could be, FDA, for example, but it could be anything related to, again, music, navy, gas, chemicals, etc. or it may be some concerns about what is the leader's legal status. So there may be a leader, but it's not clear, are they staying, what is their status, who are they, etc. So on the 13th of March, Wednesday, I also believe it will be a major down day, about 65% chance, likely a large move regardless of the direction of the market. Key areas of activity will be, as I said, oil, navy gas, water, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, etc., as well as international expansion, international travel, long-distance shipments, laws, legal issues, and immigration, as well as steel, metals, rocks, minerals, large-scale and long-term construction. These will be the same key topics of focus in the news on Thursday, March 14th, but at that point I think the market may turn back up, about 55 to 60% chance. And additionally, compared to Wednesday, the difference will be also that there may be additional news about like international negotiations or tariffs, shipments, legal issues. So there may actually be news about some agreements being reached or laws being passed that especially relate to sort of international communication or transportation, etc. There may also be additional news about like high-tech, IT, aerospace, communication, transportation businesses in general. And there may be potentially legal problems in the area above. So for example, a social media company is held liable because there's some false news being spread, or they may be, somebody suing them, or there's some other legal issues, something that's, legal status of something being related to communication and or transportation company is being discussed. And or then we may hear about some contract being signed again, related especially to sales, international sales, but also just any sort of a communication, transportation businesses in general. There may also be news about issues with shipments, especially of oil, gas, or over water. And there may be again increased news about pharmaceuticals, where we may potentially hear about some legal problems or concerns about legal problems, and or oversupply of some drug, or agreements involving again pharmaceutical companies or companies that deal with oil and chemicals. Then finally on Friday, March 15th, I believe the market may also go up, about 55 to 60% chance. Continuing focus on IT, aerospace, communication, transportation businesses, as well as agreements, negotiations, international expansion, long-distance travel and shipments, legal issues, and immigration. Again, there may be some news on Friday about agreements or lawsuits or legal status of some famous person, because potentially, again, they may be seen as violating the law, or they're pushing for changing illegal status of something, and that would be again associated with one particular like person, somebody who's representing themselves in the news rather than say a company or a block of people. And let's see, the international negotiations on Friday, the news about those may be again on say Thursday, the news might be that agreements are reached or there's some resolution. But on Friday, again, some things may be put on hold, and that the outcome is not yet clear, so it's a little bit less vague. So even though the market may go up overall, the negotiations or whatever the topics that are being negotiated on Friday may be a little bit more kind of in the air as compared to Thursday, where there's the highest probability of things actually becoming clear and agreements being reached then. Then quickly to give kind of an update for the glance ahead, before I already had that prediction on my blog for like a long time, many weeks, if not months, that around April 4th, plus minus a few days, there's an increased probability of really major disaster that most likely will involve either earthquakes or mudslides, or could be some issues with the government, maybe there's an attack, or some restructuring in a corporation that again is a really massive one that kind of causes kind of a big shock. And again, it could be physical earthquake, old buildings crash, or it could be old structures, a government, maybe a particular leader is taken down, or there's some terrorism. There may also be concerns about power plants, especially nuclear power plants, recycling, some pollution again due to either an attack that spreads something that's dirty, or there's an explosion, again, could be just from natural causes that causes results in buildings collapsing or triggers mudslides, etc. So that's in early April. However, I looked and the influence that kind of starts building up to that may begin to be felt already starting March 21st, but 22nd, especially 22nd, and for market, 22nd especially and 21st of March look like large moves days, most likely down. And there may be increased probability of news related to oil, navy, water, chemicals, pharmaceuticals, or some lies or deceptions, or some confusion, uncertainty. So there may also be increased news about like new drugs, new treatments, new leaders in healthcare related field or in the military. And the news about drugs that would come up at that time would actually be related to things like fever or head, burns or wounds, or anything that's used for like soldiers, for example, that again are hurt on the field. And at that time, we will also start kind of building up the tensions leading to that early April, around the April 4th, potential either disaster or some earthquake, something that's going to be really major, I think. Like a really one of, I don't know, top, maybe not 10, but top 20, something really significant. And it's a slow moving aspect, so it may not necessarily happen on April 4th. It could be, a few days to maybe even week here and there, a couple of weeks, but it's going to be from late March to early April. And I would predict that starting late March, we may hear about sort of a preparatory or preliminary activity. So if there's an area in the world where you may have some that will start, shaking a little bit, so maybe minor earthquakes may start, and it may be building up to that big event, or there may be some kind of a smaller scale attacks, or attacks are thwarted, but then in late March, but then in early April, finally they succeed, or some governmental structure or a large corporation starts restructuring of a particular branch, or some government is being shaken up, and again late March, and things are building up, and by around early April they may culminate in a leader being taken down, or a terrorist attack actually, maybe there's a large high threat of that, or an accident, again especially at the nuclear power plant, or something that results in like really large violence. Could be really violent protests against the governments or against large corporations. So that's something that may be coming up, and for the market it may also mean potentially down moves, but especially March 21st, 22nd, especially 22nd, I predict there will be large moves days, probably probably down, because again of the stressful aspects that are coming up. So that's it from me this time. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I'll see you guys next time.